Welcome back to the next adventure in our ongoing series on campaign design for variant campaigns. My name is Steve.
I'm Ian.
And today we are going to be looking primarily at Ian's expertise in designing the mechanical concerns of variant campaigns for Downbelow.
So, in the Downbelow RPG, the basic system is really flexible, but when you're going to run a particular style of game, you need to think about a couple of things up front. First, let's continue on from that buy-in note from last time. The players, to be on the same page with the GM, should be informed if certain traits are going to be needed on their character sheet or not allowed on their character sheet or discouraged or limited on their character sheet.
If the campaign happens to be literally Rambo and characters do not have big guns and drives for vengeance, but instead have plenty of stuffed animal making skills, it's not going to be a very fulfilling game for anyone involved.
It's okay to have one Daniel Jackson archaeologist on your team of crack elite soldiers, even though this is not a game generally about going through stargates, although there's a little bit of possibility for that in this setting, but those actually exist way out in space, and there's a multi-month trip to get to the wormhole locations and then to the planets, so it's not really quite the same kind of adventure. But the point is, on your crack team of soldiers, there may be room for one intellectual type, but you're going to need to make sure that the players know this is the style of game I'm going for, and therefore we can't have everybody be doctors. We need to have some people be thugs, or whatever the needs of your campaign are going to be. Next thing you're going to need to worry about is, on the back end for the GM, what kinds of things are you going to need to keep track of? We've talked before about the GM keeping track of different tracks of resources for individuals, organizations, or situations. So the style of campaign will dictate the things that you should be paying attention to, how many times they're succeeded or failed in relation to. And that will change drastically.
And when we start exploring different campaign options, which we will with the next one, Ian is actually going to be giving us some concrete examples for that campaign of things that need to be tracked. Here we're just raising the awareness that that's one of the things that you'll need to be aware of.
So things that you won't be changing depending on the campaign style. You won't be introducing any unique mechanics because they aren't needed. The same mechanic of the players choose to succeed using a trait or just fail and take the consequences of not succeeding in that situation applies. The same mechanic of the GM determines when there's a challenge that needs to be succeeded or fails applies. The same mechanics of either scene by scene, how many successes or failures determines the outcome of the scene, or resource tracks that determine the overall course of the story, or some combination thereof, still works for the same back end. It's merely a matter of what names you need to put on them and when you will tend to look at using them to portray this, because this abstraction that we've created in this system, all game systems create an abstraction. Ours is, frankly, very, very abstract. It is so abstract that any story situation you apply it to, you can use the same abstraction, because mostly what determines what's actually happening in the action of the story is your narration and the player's narration.
Akin to in a movie, the most important question is not how did we get there. The most important question is what purpose does this scene serve to the plot. That's really the same way as our system applies. It's not a question of do I mechanically have the modifier to attempt this? It's does this success or failure serve the needs of the plot as myself, my GM, and my character see it.
So that about wraps up my introduction to how the system will change, which is to say, the actual system doesn't, but the things you prepare for it will. And tomorrow we're going to give you our first campaign style for Downbelow. Thanks for falling through the cracks with us, and we hope you're still here tomorrow.